Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Benji, if you can focus for a minute on the ark, the beautiful ark that we have here in the sanctuary. Hopefully people can see that in the middle of the ark we have the two tablets of covenant that God gave us on top of Mount Sinai. If we were in the chapel, we would see on the beautiful new ark, also in the center, the two tablets of covenant. And if we were in the chapel to my left, there would be kind of a statue of the two tablets of covenant. And almost every Torah cover we have, and every synagogue in the world, has a breastplate like this one. I don't know if Benji can focus on it or not, that in the middle you see again the two tablets of covenant. So the two tablets of covenant, what we tend to call the Ten Commandments, even though the Hebrew doesn't call them Aseret HaMitzvot, the Ten Commandments, the Hebrew calls them the Ten Statements, but every language calls them the two tablets of covenant, are kind of extremely important in our tradition. And we've been waiting for the moment of getting them this entire time during the story of the Exodus from Egypt. That's what Moses was asking Pharaoh all the time. Let my people go so they can worship me in the desert. That was the commandment of God to Moses. When God first encountered Moses in the burning bush, God says to Moses, and now go and bring the people into this mountain so I can create a covenant, not only with you, but with all the people of Israel. And finally we get to that moment. The people are in Sinai just waiting to receive the covenant from God, and there's a lot of fire. The entire mountain is on fire, just like the burning bush was on fire, and there's lightning, and the people can hear the voices of the divine. The people can see the voices. That's what the text says. I'm not making a mistake here. The people can see the voices. The people also can smell something because there's fire and smoke, so at least three senses are working. We see the presence of God, we hear the presence of God, we see the voices of God, and we smell, which is probably one of the strongest senses that we have, the fire and everything. And we get to that moment that God actually gives us the 10 statements, what we call the 10 Commandments. And in the center of them, there is a secret of Jewish life, of Jewish tradition, maybe the most important contribution that our tradition gave all humanity, and that is the Shabbat. And if you look at the way that the mitzvah, the commandment of observing Shabbat, is stated here in the two tablets of covenant, it gives us all a chance to simply upgrade our existence, because it says the following: for 6 days you should do all your labor, which means for 6 days you're supposed to live a productive life, but it's about you. All your labor for 6 days, you're living for yourself. You're doing, everything is about you and about being a productive citizen in our society. So it's not a mitzvah just on Shabbat, just on one day. It begins with, for 6 days, do all your labor. And then on the 7th day, you should rest, because God rested on the 7th day and called it holy. And then God says the following. After God says, not only you, but also the stranger in your midst, and your servants, and your children, everybody should rest. That the world should stop. Shabbat means to stop. Everything stops, everything rests. But then God explains why. And God says, for 6 days, I, Adonai, your God, created the heaven and the earth. Meaning, for 6 days, God labored. And then on the 7th day, adds God in our Torah portion, God rested. And because God rested, God sanctified the Shabbat and called it holy, which is, by the way, a really wonderful idea, that we find sanctity and holiness not in laboring, but actually in resting, in stopping to work. But that's not the main issue here. The main issue here is that if I live my life the way that is described in this mitzvah, if I labor for 6 days and think about myself and my goodness and wow, it's all about me in those 6 days and about the society around me, and then on the 7th day, on the Shabbat, that belongs to Adonai. So I'm not supposed to work for myself. That is a day of rest. That means that every week I'm imitating the first week of creation. I'm doing exactly what God did in the 7 days of creation. And I'm not reliving creation as one of the creatures of Adonai. I'm reliving every week creation the way Adonai experienced creation. 6 days God labored, and the 7th day God rested and made it holy. This is a chance for a sacred living. This is a chance of walking the journey of life on the path that God laid for us, all in a very simple mitzvah. And it's not only about Shabbat, it's about every day of the week. This is a huge upgrade to human existence. Shabbat Shalom.